Hi, I am Hershey Bar, and you have joined us once again on a wonderful serving of chocolate covered gaming. As always, as I just said, so in case you're deaf or just, weren't really paying attention, or the fact I said it off the bat just threw you into an alternate dimension worth of, whoa, what the hell is going on?
And now we
I'm
have to get our trap card.
Exactly. I'm Hershey, one of your wonderful hosts. Joining me today is Crackle, and he's about to snap some wisdom on you. Isn't that right, Crackle?
Wait, isn't that like the off-brand Crunch?
Yeah, it's Hershey's Crunch. You're welcome,
the
boy.
Sony Crackle.
There we go. So yeah, the Crackle to my Hershey. And today, speaking of which, seeing how I use this beautiful name of mine and I give Crackle there a different name every week, we thought it was fitting in this candy corner of ours, because yes, you've learned to do basic math at this point. It is another multiple of 3.
And which number of candy corner is this, Hershey Bar?
The 4th one.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then yeah, it's the 4th one. Please tell us in the comments if we're both wrong.
No, mostly because I have the sheet I have with all the candy bars and the episodes next to them open in front of me.
Oh, right. I forgot. You excelled it.
Yep, because I need to remember a lot of candy bars for this show.
So yes, 4th candy corner. What are we talking today?
The 4th candy corner is a topic me and Chris Crackle over there both thought would be really cool. Immersion and suspended disbelief,
Ooh.
In its essence, Dungeons and Dragons and all role-playing games are games, they're fake, not real, imaginary.
What do you mean it's not real? You take that back right now, it's real.
Look, okay, your wife doesn't exist.
Tell me that. What, is anime not real either?
Look, your mother and I were thinking about when to tell you.
No.
Kamina didn't really die.
Oh, so he's alive then, right? I can go say hi to him?
No, because Kamina never existed in the first place.
What?
It's about time you knew, Crackle.
But
anime isn't real.
But Galaxy Gurren.
Galaxy Gurren, indeed.
So
yeah. Immersion and suspended disbelief, Basically the concepts of immersing yourself in the game so that you feel it's real, and suspended disbelief is the concept of, well, openly
believing for a time.
It's kind of like that open secret of, we all know this is fake, but we choose to ignore that fact so we can truly believe in it.
Yeah. Like
religion. And that's suspended disbelief. You suspend your disbelief in it.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly straightforward.
It's really easy. It's almost like the words do something for the overall phrasing.
The English language making sense? Shut the fuck up.
No, actually, no, you're right. That's heresy.
Boy, that's going to need to be censored. Yeah, so Hershey today is a bit rum flavored, so we'll deal with that.
Yeah, adult chocolate milk, as they say.
Exactly. But I leave it to our wonderful, wonderful audio guy, Craig, to edit out with a bleep every curse I say. I'm looking forward to it, Craig.
Craig, you're a great video editor. Let no one ever tell you otherwise.
We're sorry you have to do this, Craig.
We're very sorry. Wait, no, we say that at the end.
Shit, that's our fuck. Well, good job, Craig. You did that one great. Didn't even hear it. So, suspended disbelief. We already talked about what that idea is, but what are some examples of it? You want to take this, Chris?
All right. So, suspended disbelief. There's a lot of ways we can tackle this. We can tackle this in just like sitting down and starting the game. Recently I got to have break in a newbie for, not a one shot for them, but another campaign session for us. And one of the things that I felt bad for him in like a fun way was he was describing his character to the rest of the party, and his mom was in the doorway listening and watching intently. And he's like, you could see he's like struggling. You could hear it. And his brother, who was helping him out, was like, "Mom, you're embarrassing him. You're making him nervous. Leave." And he's like, "I just want to make sure he's having a good time." And he's like, "We just started." And so I think one of the earliest ways that suspended disbelief comes into play is right then and there at the beginning of the session. When you say, "Listen, I am not going to be me anymore. I am still me, but for the next however long your session is, be it an hour, 2 hours, 8 hours, if you're a psychopath, you're that other person." Similar to kind of like how I always liken D&D to a play. Everyone is assuming the role as an actor. They're assuming their character. And they're no longer boring Chris. They are Joseph Fulgrim. And whatever, what have you. Which from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, that's a bit weird. But, when you're in the moment and you suspend your disbelief, it's not that weird.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm no longer Hershey. I'm Chocolatus Maximus.
Which chocolate is the Maximus? You'll have to find out.
Exactly.
It's his
backstory. It is the true nature of every man's quest to find out what they're truly max at. And his is to find the max chocolate. But yeah, that's a great point. One of the best examples is just when you choose to play the game, period,
Mm-hmm.
And you choose to not be you anymore. You choose to be this epic fighter or a sneaky rogue or a brilliant wizard.
Or a cleric that'll stab you in the back at the beginning of the first session.
Yeah, that too. Don't know why, that gets brought up. But when you make that choice, that is already you kind of signing this invisible contract we call suspended disbelief,
Mm-hmm.
Just that kind of like cool general idea. Another example of this too is like when you start role playing, you can't think of it in a meta sense anymore. You kind of have to start thinking, hey, how would my character handle this?
Yeah, because if you start being like meta about it, not only will it trip you up when you're trying to actually accurately role play your character or say things you wouldn't actually say or do things you wouldn't actually do, you start hesitating and taking that step back, and it's like, no, you gotta give yourself over to the character, let the character breathe. It's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, just do what feels natural.
Mm-hmm.
Do what comes naturally. That's like one of the big points of like role playing. Like for me, we should do a role playing episode next for our next Candy Corner. Actually,
we promise nothing and deliver less. But yeah, we'll probably do a role playing episode later
at some point, maybe.
Some point. I'm totally not making it.
It's not like this is our job or anything, because it isn't actually.
It is.
So you know what I mean?
We're doing this out of the love and passion in our heart, our collective single heart. And by ours, I mean mine.
That's a good way to put it. But yeah, one of the main things you kind of have to come to terms with, I feel like is the best way to say it, is that you don't have control anymore. You have control of your character, obviously, but you are not some puppet master pulling the strings. You are your character.
You're a conduit for which your character acts.
Exactly.
Which is also something that happens when you write. Like eventually, like how I know I've developed a character well enough is when I didn't need to think about what they'd do. They would just do it and I'd write it down as if I was watching it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like that's like a really, that's like some of the best moments too, where like sometimes your character will do something dumb and sometimes your character will do something brilliant. But I feel like both are equally amazing if they're actually your character.
Yeah, because they show off both the flaws, but also the benefits of like your character, like the strong points of your character.
Yeah, it makes it feel real. And I feel like one of the biggest points, we should kind of like bring
highlight.
Up. Yeah, highlight. Thank you. highlight for like playing D&D and that kind of stuff in general. Playing an RPG. We have to sign this invisible contract. I honestly like to call it, because it kind of is like this unspoken rule, this open secret that is suspended disbelief. But in turn, to make that suspended disbelief as, beautiful as possible, we try and make this thing real. We try and make this character we see before us something actually there. We try and feel invested in the NPCs we talk to. We start to think not that, these are words coming out of our DM's mouth as he pretends to be this old lady, but instead it's this old lady genuinely asking for help as she worries what happened to her son when he left 4 months ago to go, take care of something in town.
Okay, I'm sorry, but what you just described is something I literally just put through my players like a few days ago.
Wait, no, you're joking. You're fucking with me, right? Thank you, Craig.
No,
you're flipping me out right now, right?
Okay, we're gonna go on a slight tangent, but it's a candy corner, so it's okay. I need to clarify, I have not told Hirsch this story of my players' most recent exploits. Long story short, players hunt werewolves because werewolves are attacking dairy farm. They kill 2 wolves and take 1 captive who is a recently transformed wolf. They learn that the recently transformed wolf is the tailor of the town that they work in. And the character who's the main werewolf hunter, Matt Mercer's blood hunter, he had a thing for the tailor and he's like, oh, I'm into that. And then, once she finds out she's turned to a werewolf, he's like, oh no, crap, right? He's invested. And then that leads them to think, wait, who are the other 2? And they learn that they were guardsmen of the town that they're running. And these guardsmen had gone missing long before the party ever arrived at the town they run. They're collectively called the Council of 6. And they had to, in that session, go to their mother, because they were brothers, and tell them what happened to their sons 4 months ago.
I hate you.
Tangent over.
Wow, that's perfect. Oh my god. Okay, but yes, that suspended disbelief is what makes the storytelling that is D&D so powerful. Because if you do suspended disbelief right, you're not reading a story. Because look, we're nerds here. Don't get me wrong. I love books, and I love a good book.
Same.
I get invested in characters and stories. But D&D naturally has the ability to take that one more level up. RPGs in general, because it's no longer you reading about a character. If you do the RPG right, and you do it justice by truly believing in it, by suspending your disbelief in it, it doesn't become a story that you're reading. It becomes an autobiography that you are living. And you truly start feeling like stuff's happening around you, that, your choices matter, that you can't just be a knuckleheaded McSpazatron and run in yelling Leroy Jenkins and getting everyone killed. That these people that you're dealing with also have their own lives around them that they live,
Yeah, exactly. You learn to take pride and interest in the story that you are acting within, and start putting aside, as we said before, the meta thinking of, well, this isn't actually real, none of this is actually true. And you're like, okay, but what if it is, and you lean into it and you start actually actively caring. And that's the great thing about suspended disbelief, just in general, why it's such a key and important factor of playing at the table.
Exactly. It's what lets us truly believe. You know what? This one, because I feel like suspended disbelief is not simple, but it's kind of like a easy to say topic. But I feel like we do need those tangents to kind of show. You know what I mean? I guess for me, I've been playing D&D. This is a bit of a humble brag moment. But I started playing D&D back in my freshman year of high school. So obviously, I'm not that old, and they're probably, I know a lot of people who are like in their 30s and 40s who started playing when Gary Gygax dropped his first edition.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing 4th edition, which a lot of people will say is taboo. But I started playing in the 5th edition beta, and it was in the 5th edition beta because my first character in 4th edition was a rogue named John Smith, who was like a rogue because he was the most normal person ever. That wasn't really great. My first character I ever got seriously involved in was when I was joining a campaign, and my DM told me, "Hey, everyone, write a 1-page backstory." It's the first time I'd ever been asked that, and I was like, "The fuck do you mean?"
I'd show up and be like, "Wait, I had 2 pages. Is that okay, Professor?"
Right? But no, but he said have a serious backstory planned out. So I was like, I don't know what to make. And then it hit me. I looked around online. I was like, I wanted to be a wizard because I love wizards and rogues.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I started writing out a story, and I did a couple drafts, and then it hit me. I made my favorite character.
The Birth of a Titan.
Honestly, it's one that will always stay with me. In my friend's campaign now, it's like a clan that he always references. I made Jamhorn Glittergold, Gnome Pyromancer. He wanted to learn all the secrets of flame because he felt that within it, he could discover the true meaning of life itself in the fiery, fires of the beginning.
In the fiery infernos of the beginning.
Thank you. That's infinitely better.
That's how it goes.
His opening story was he blew up his house because he was trying to be arrested.
He was trying to be arrested?
Yeah, they tried to arrest him, then he blew up his house and ran.
Oh, you mean someone was attempting to arrest him? He's not if I commit arson on myself, I'll get arrested, right?
Yeah, no, don't worry. But and with that character, I stuck with it. I played him how I thought he'd be played. I started experiencing how Jamhorn would feel. Hey, you have to do this and you have to do that. And there was one point too where we were talking to a witness. This poor girl who had passed out on a bed. And we were talking. And here's the thing, my character just didn't care. I cared. I cared deeply about the story. I was listening, and I was at one point I was like, wait, this isn't what my character's doing though. And that's when I hit this moment of, am I playing for me or am I playing for both of us?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my DM a question that my friend always brings up when he's like, this is good role playing, but also the worst role playing. I asked the DM, hey, what's the bed made out of? And everyone was a little confused, but they were like, he's been quiet this whole time. We'll let it ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll let it rock.
Kind of confirming their notes between them. He was like, well, it's made out of goose feather. And I went huh. I don't think I've burned goose feather. And then I lit the bed on fire and started furiously scribbling notes as I asked the DM, how does the bed burn? While the rest of the party went, what are you doing? And picked the girl up off the bed, scooped her up and went, what the hell are you doing? And looked at Jamhorn and went I'm doing my job, obviously. Scribbling notes.
And you see this research?
Exactly. This research is going to do itself. And it was that moment that I think that is the moment for me where I feel I've truly because suspended disbelief is a really easy thing to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, anyone can say suspended disbelief.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult of a word.
Exactly. It's an easy concept to wrap your head around, but it's hard to truly experience. And I think for me, that was a year and a half after I started playing, by the way. A year and a half after I started playing D&D was the first moment I feel I truly had a moment of, I'm not just playing for myself, I'm playing for me and this being I've given birth to with my mind.
And so I think that's a great way to segue, because you say that suspended disbelief is something hard to get into. Well, luckily, there's something that can help your players more easily fall into suspended disbelief. Hirsch, E-Bar.
I'm legit wondering what kind of segue you're trying to segue us into a segue into.
The best way for your players to suspend their disbelief is if they are immersed.
Okay, you know what? That's on me. That was the other half of the title. That one's on me. That one is on me.
That's fine. So, immersing your players at the table beyond just the game, because when we're playing, if you are a traditionalist, pencil, paper, maybe the books are there too. That's about it, right? Screen, maybe. Screen is debated. We won't get into the screen debate here.
We don't take a side yet. That's a special episode for Patreon.
Yeah. I remember to support our Patreon to get all of our exclusive episodes like
none. We just don't have one.
But that doesn't mean there won't be.
Look, okay, know what? We'll consider
won't
it if
be.
we get to like 1,000 subscribers.
When people start asking for it is when we'll start doing it.
Yeah, you know what? If you say you want to
But
give us your
until
money,
then-
we won't argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But back to immersion. After the beautiful segue I messed up.
It's fine. That's why I'm here. I'm here to drive the train.
Thank you, because this locomotive is wild. Immersion. Now, okay, so first things first, there are a lot of you who, after hearing our explanation of suspended disbelief, are probably wondering,
Aren't
Well,
they
I
the
mean,
same
what's-
thing?
yeah, they're the same. What's the difference between suspended disbelief and immersion? And you know what? Crackle's going to tell you.
All right, so suspended disbelief is sort of the thing that you do on an individual basis. It's something that you kind of like, as Hershey Bars put it, it's that social contract you sign when you play the game. Immersion is the shared experience, the shared collective, almost like is suspended disbelief is singular, immersion is plural. Multiple people feel immersed together. Usually it's the players feel immersed in the world that the DM puts forth for them.
Yeah. No, yeah. I completely that's okay. Yeah, there's nothing there to add. He did it. He got it. He got it in one. Yeah, immersion is your general world. It's how you and everyone feels inside the story that is the campaign.
Mm-hmm. How realistic is this world? Well, the more, quote unquote realistic, within some boundaries, the more believable it can be, the more that they're willing to, I'll suspend my disbelief for that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, basically, if you want to think about it, immersion is like the general grouping of everyone in the game, whereas suspended disbelief is each individual.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have one without the other, but you need both of them for it to really work. And immersion's important. Immersion really does help set the scene.
And it's one of my favorite aspects of the game.
Yeah, because it's what makes the world real. It's what makes the world. Basically, suspended disbelief is what makes you care about your character. Immersion is what makes you care about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many things you can do to just make the world real.
So let's just talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. You can give characters voices. You can design towns or worlds or gods and just various things to make the world fleshed out.
Yeah, you make a domain. You don't have to make a domain. You can definitely borrow a domain, Greek, Norse, what have you. But you give them a unique flavor and feel that, when I was initially creating my domain, I'm like, well, what makes gods interesting? Yes, Thor, but why Thor? And then it's like, oh yeah, I read Percy Jackson. Those gods were fun. And it's like, oh, just give them personality. Wait, what? Yeah, personality. Personality will make them memorable. All right, cool. And then it was all downhill from there.
Oh God, I still remember one of the few times you asked me for help, and I just made the best. I just left my print in your world forever.
Yep.
Well, I've done that multiple times, but I've done that multiple times, but I mean for gods.
Would you like to reveal the god that you helped create?
Yeah,
the god that is affectionately called Soccer Dad by my party.
Yep. Oh, I love him. I helped create the god of war and flame.
Arcadian.
And
why Arcadian are you the god of war and fire?
Ever hear of the flames of war? Boom, right here.
And thus, the god that plays with literal toy soldiers being actual orcs on his plane that is just a wasteland of war and terror was born.
God, I love him. But if that's one of the like more macro things, one of the big scale things you can do to make your world immersive.
That's another micro thing I love to do.
Yeah, what?
Give flavor text to magic items I give my players.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Chris is a great like macro guy. He built his whole world on his own. Something that I have a lot of trouble doing. I'm still struggling with it. I've like made a new campaign that I've finally found like, okay, I've made a good world. But micro, like, there are micro things you can do in a lot of them. Like adding flavor text to items is really good. But one of the best micro things you can do, and something I feel like I can handle well, is just making characters or NPCs rather.
Yeah, the people.
Make them real people. But here's the thing that I feel like a lot of people forget too, is you can do it for monsters as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I've run an adventure league, so I've had tons of new players in my time. Tons of people who, are getting back in the game or this for the first time. And there are multiple times where I just go like, cool, you're fighting a goblin. And then when the goblins start losing, they run away. And it's that little thing. Just the fact that goblins have like the understanding that, hey, we might die and that they should run to live.
What do you mean they don't just stand and fight till they die? Why do I gotta track them down now? Because they want to live.
Yeah, exactly. Or that also, not everything drops treasure,
Oh yeah.
Not everything is like giving you points towards buying that new sword. Sometimes just killing something is just killing something.
My favorite is when my players try to. It's like, okay, well, what? Let's loot their sword. Okay, what are you looting from? The kobold that died there. All right, cool. It's not a sword. It's more like a piece of metal that they just kind of wrap some cloth around. And I mean, you can take it, but it's basically garbage.
Basically. So yeah, immersion's important. I feel like, again, immersion just has the exact same problem that.
Nope.
Thank you, Craig. I'm just gonna say that every time now. That's my new curse clock. Thank you, Craig. Because he has to sit through all of this.
So one thing about immersion that you can also do, and I think, we're talking about mainly in the game, but you can do stuff out of game that immerse your players.
Yeah, no, I was about to bring it up. There's a lot of things you can do out of game, like just to make the world and experience better for your players, to make it easier for them to go in and out.
So one thing I do for my players, at least when we play, because mostly we play online because it's just really convenient for everyone. But when we do get the rare opportunity to play in person and we make it a big deal, one of the things I do is if they are opening a chest, I actually have a little wooden chest. Inside is a little folded flashcard and a couple of just fake gemstones and gold pieces in there so that it rattles when you shake the little chest around. And when they, loot something and it's of particular worth or value, I hand them the chest with the flashcard in there. So they actually get to open the chest and grab the little flashcard with their item.
I love that chest so much, and I hate the fact that I don't have one.
Just on this. Okay, so I got mine from, hey, we're not sponsored by these people, but I'm just going to name drop them because it's where I got it. And they have a lot of cool stuff like this. Hobby Lobby or any hobby store, really. They usually have little usually they're advertised as like jewelry boxes, but honestly, they look like treasure chests.
Yeah, that's true.
Just go there. They're usually in like the garden section. They've got like little pretty stones and stuff. Grab a couple of those, like for like building terrariums.
Huh.
Put those in there. Get a pack of flashcards, and boom. Now you have something to hand your players when they get a magic item other than, okay, add a cloak of invisibility. It's like, well, here, open the chest and see what you find.
Yeah. Another thing you can really do outside the game that kind of corresponds directly to inside the game is working on something that your character's invested in. And obviously, this goes both ways for DMs and for players. for DMs, it's like, obviously if your player has a cool background story, something like that, try and work it into your campaign, into your world,
Mm-hmm.
If your character's from like a deposed noble family, work that in. Why was he deposed? Are people after him? If so, who? Stuff like that. And for players too, make the cool backstory. Make it more than something just generic, so your DM can work with it, and you in turn can feel invested. The more effort you put into building your character, the more you'll feel from it. And yeah, you could totally improv a character. I'm not gonna lie. I have had many a campaign where I've just gone like, this sounds like a really cool idea, and then I've gone from there, and I've had some of my best characters from it. Like my beautiful, idiotic, chaotic, evil dragonborn named Crunk. But
Pull the lever, Crunk.
Pull the lever. But Disney don't sue. But it's much easier. Yeah, it's much easier for your DM if you actually work out your backstory first.
Yeah, we love, like, I personally love a detailed, like, not, I don't want you to have to feel like you have to write a novel, but I love a backstory that gives certain elements and certain things, because I see that, I'm like, oh, cool. Free hooks?
Exactly.
Free hooks for sale? Free NPCs? Free plot points? My players have made things as little as small, organizations up to literal demigods in my, campaign world. And it's great because it's like, hey, you made this thing. Of course, you're going to care about it.
Yeah. Feel free to use what your characters make. And DMs, feel free to be like, hey, if I haven't told you something, make it up. If you beat me to the punch, beat me to the punch. Because that way too, like, honestly, it's a little less work on you. And also, again, it's something the characters made. They're gonna feel invested. They're gonna be immersed because they're gonna be like, I made that god. That's a god I worship. Thank you, Craig.
Oh no, two of my players, when I was making the gods of my realm, they both like tied themselves very specifically to a god who initially, when they asked, hey, who is the god of thieves? I'm like, oh, well, that's Nyxra, goddess of thieves and lies. And it's like at that moment, I'm like, I don't know who the gimmick is. And then, the player who tied to Nyxra is like, oh, yes, Hail Nyxra, as in like a Hail Hydra. And, and even to this day, even though he doesn't worship that goddess, still is super tied. And my other player, who made Granddaddy Samsara, the god of light and life,
screw that god,
still is like, praise the sun, even though he may play something so far from him, because like they both helped flesh out those gods. They feel that attachment to them.
Look, all I'm gonna say is dark gods for life. That's all. Just gonna toss that one there.
That's Nyxra's there. She's in the shadow domain.
Look, that's all I'm saying. Not gonna sidetrack us too hard. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so that is honestly, yeah, I think that's a lot of immersion.
Another thing, and like the best part about like, because I love at the table immersion of like ways to be like, hey, I know we're playing this game, but let me give you a little doodad to mess with to let you feel like it. One thing I've wanted to do, because I just love the idea, is people taking little bottles, labeling them potion of healing, and putting the dice that you roll for that type of potion of healing inside the dice. So you uncork the bottle, get the dice, roll it. It's like, okay, cool. I just drank my potion of healing, and then you put the dice back, put the bottle away. Boom. That not only alleviates the problem of what do I roll again, it's also like, hey, I'm actually feel like I'm drinking this. Now don't drink it because that dice is gonna hurt.
Yeah. Let's put it like that.
Another thing I love using for immersion is actually music. Because this is more for the digital, because it's a lot easier to do on digital, but you can still do this at the table with like a small speaker.
No, yeah, and honestly, that's something I feel really, kind of dumb forgetting. Music is a huge thing. Trying to get as many like senses involved in the game as possible.
Oh yeah, ambience. Really, there's whole websites dedicated to just ambience in general, because it's like, yeah, when you're wandering in the forest, what's going to help you feel more immersed? the super descriptive and super lengthy, description of the forest, from the trees to the beaten path to the bugs and what have you, or just putting on a little speaker, just ambient forest noises.
And then a brief description that you're in a forest.
Yeah. Like music and sound just in general really help build up characters. And I've seen plenty of stories online. I think one in particular, someone posted on the D&D Reddit about how like music is so underappreciated sometimes in D&D, because it made their players actually not give up during the boss fight, because the music hit a certain point that they're like, okay, but I know we're losing, but I think we can win this. You know why? Because this music, though.
Honestly, there's something honestly underappreciated about like perfect music timing that just builds the scene for you. Like, there's a reason why movies aren't just people talking and there's no music in them. They have a ton of music for an obvious reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and best part is TVs, movies, they have musical scores online that you can just lift for yours. Ha.
We are not condoning pirating in any
No, you buy
way.
the album.
You buy it.
Then you play the song.
Yep, that's totally what you do.
Yes.
Yep. So.
Also video games. Video games have some great
video games. Well, because, they're trying to do the same thing we're doing.
Yeah. We just take it a step further because we don't need to program.
Exactly. We just need to speak.
Yeah. Video games still great, though. We're not dumbing on video games. Okay.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Video game shout out. Rant not sponsored. Divinity 2, amazing RPG. Witcher 3, amazing RPG. If you want great writing, great gameplay, and just a good time, check these games out. Not sponsored.
If you want two of those three things, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You decide what two of those it has.
Well, I know for a fact, but I won't say, because I don't want to be sued for slander.
So yeah, music and sound, great way to immerse your players.
It really just builds a scene for you.
And yeah, I think we've hit pretty much all of the points when it comes to just some of the things you can think about when you immerse your players.
Yeah. Again, you know what? There is one thing though. I feel like is like the biggest part of like.
I also just came up with one thing as well, but you go first.
Okay, I'll go first and then see if you can one up me, as you always do.
No, not always.
You're amazing, always. So, getting your characters involved, getting your players involved, is the best way to build immersion and suspended disbelief. Look, you can do all this other stuff, but if you don't make sure your characters are hooked to the story, care about what's happening, are actually acting inside that world, it's not going to matter. They're not going to be immersed. You have to get them involved basically, you have to build that solid base that is getting them involved for anything to be built on top of it.
Ways you can do this. That NPC that one of the players is super hyper fixated on. And it's like, hey, I want to date that. Hey, if he's a werewolf hunter, turn her into a werewolf and let him personally get invested in trying to save her from lycanthropy. Immersion.
I swear. But yeah, stuff like that, honestly.
If you're one of your players says he wants to be a displaced knight because his kingdom was recently taken over in a vicious coup. Hey, guess what? That sounds like a villain for a whole 2 campaigns.
Yep. Having things your characters care about and having bad things happen to them or good things happen to them is the easiest way for immersion to grow. Yeah.
Play to their interests and play to the things they might despise. Because nothing says villain like, hey, I'm the embodiment of everything you hate. come on and beat me, right?
Basically.
But I'm also human. And you get to learn about, why I believe these things. What, you don't want to kill me now, but you wanted to for a whole 2 campaigns.
Do it.
Now you have to. Yeah, do it. This is your chance. Shine.
Look, okay, I love him so much. I got invested in him. I wasn't even in a campaign. I was just a guest DM who was playing the villain. But yeah.
You showed up once and got so invested in the story that you weren't partaking.
Because you kept making me help you write. Making is the wrong word. I loved helping you. But you kept making, I kept writing shit for you and building this character. And it was just great.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why I'm now called the Lich in your group. So
yeah. Well, currently Liches are us.
Because I'm too many. So that is immersion.
Wait, what about my idea?
What is your idea? Oh, crackle of crackles.
All right, so we're gonna take a slight. We're gonna hop back into the TARDIS and go back to one of our candy corners for a short time to grab one word and then come back. Lore.
Ooh.
So one of the things I love to do is world building. And
oh boy, understatement.
Yeah, a little bit. But one way to make these, wherever my players are, whatever society or culture they're immersed in, writing out, hey, how are these different? What do these like to do? So for example, I wrote a little small, easy to digest article on the cuisine of my world. Okay. Some people, one of the nations is like, hey, meat, alcohol, hearty, let's go, right? And the other one's like, hey, you know what? We just want to be physically fit so we can survive out here because this is basically Australia with kaiju. And another one's like, hey, we're hardworking people, but we like that comfort food though. And so it's like, when they're eating at these different, locations, these different nations, they're like, oh yeah, of course they're eating this, no duh, because this is their mentality when it comes to their food. And just little details like that, I think really help, at least with my players too, helps immerse them, giving the languages special names in the world. It's like, or even the gold, the currency special names. So when they use it, they're like, oh, right, it's not just gold, it's alpha.
Yeah.
Getting them to use a lot of the world, you don't have to Tolkien it and make a whole language. Just throwaway lines here and there, little, names or terms that your players can use in their everyday, at least quote unquote everyday, as in when they play. And that helps them be like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm really, trading with this merchant. I just got 5 Beltum knocked off, the price of this 5 Alpham axe. So it's great. When they start talking the way that the people in the world talk, then I find with my players, it usually makes them more immersed into the world. It's like, oh yeah, this is a real place. Of course I'm going to believe it exists. There's nothing to prove me otherwise. And so I just wanted to go on, mention that is something you can also do, is just, fleshing out your world a bit more in certain things that most people don't think about, in the day-to-day, that will help them get immersed into it.
No, yeah, I completely agree. That's really important and really, just an insane thing that happens. That you can do all this cool stuff and that, it just basically every time you have a date, when a player asks a question and you don't look like you're fumbling around for an answer, that makes them feel this world is just more than it is.
Another thing I love to do is I love making the books in the world. And they can range from very loose references, like a story of Steam, to something that's a bit more like, oh, this sounds interesting. For example, Sammy's Guide to Samsara. One of my players who became a prophet of Samsara wrote a children's book introducing kids to the god that he worships. And that's just found around.
Yep. And it's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, and so when they're like looking at like books and you're pointing out like, hey, these are what people read in this world. It's either like, oh my god, why? And hey, I want to read that too though.
Yeah, exactly. Look, there's so many things you can do for immersion, but basically it all comes down to if there's stuff to do in your world and your world's, exists and feels real, the immersion will happen naturally. And if your characters are willing to play the game for what it truly is, the suspended disbelief will come too.
Yeah. Immersion is a way to catalyze suspended disbelief to make it a lot easier for your players. And soon they'll be able to do it without even thinking, oh yeah, I need to suspend my disbelief. It's, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be this person now. All right, time to go somewhere else for a bit.
Exactly. Well, on all those wonderful notes about suspended disbelief, I think we've hit all the notes we should hit on this kind of topic.
Yeah, it's so vast, much like world building.
It's just so simple.
Yeah, it's so simple, but there's just so many ways you can tackle both of these topics that it's really hard to just hit on every little thing you can do, right?
Exactly. Like that is seriously, like that's what makes it so amazing, but also, what makes it intense. Let's not lie. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but as long as if you put your effort in, it will come naturally.
Hey, it sounds like a lot, but if you love it and care about it, it's not going to feel like work. It's going to feel like a hobby. It's going to feel like a labor of love. Metis was a labor of love. A very, very long labor of love.
We'll talk about your problem later.
Probably.
On that note, slight transition. We have once again received mail.
Oh boy, we're getting important now.
We're getting mail. It's from a guy who's already mailed us. But if you guys want to send us mail, feel free to. If our wonderful Crackle would like to plug that email real quick while I read this email.
All right. So if you'd like to write us an email about how we broke immersion for your party forever, or how we fixed immersion for your party forever, you can email us at chocolatecoveredgamemail@gmail.com. That's chocolatecoveredgamemail@gmail.com. Or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can comment down below and ask the question, because you can be sure we see all of those. And we smile every time we see there's a comment because someone paid attention to us.
Honestly, it's true. So, this one is from Calkern. He has sent us an email before. And, we appreciate that. He's also not Goat Queen, so we appreciate that even more.
We have no announcements to make further on Goat Queen's.
We've already done that joke. So, Calkern's email reads, Hey Hershey, and whatever your co-host is candy-wise this week, it's Crackle. Apologies about the last question. I wasn't trying to exclude items, so as per request, what items are you guys proud of homebrewing outside the podcast? Be them magical, practical, silly, wacky, random, etc. And if you're proud of multiple items, I don't think people would mind hearing about them as well. Well, it's a candy corner, so we have all the time in the world. I'm not sure how many we want to say, but I can definitely think of like one item off the top of my head that I'm proud of. What about you, Crackle?
I've got two I can think of, but you can go first while I decide which one.
Cool. Well, I co-DM / play in a campaign a buddy of mine runs. That is a Greco-Roman themed campaign. So it's got the Greek pantheon, Zeus, Hestia, Pan, Poseidon, all those gods are in it. And we make a lot of magic items for it, because he also likes making magic items for new players. He likes, the idea that, if a new player comes in, let's just give them a decent magic item so they feel like, they have some utility / power. So what we did, it was for a divine soul sorcerer who worshipped Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. We made the Staff of the Hearth, which was a really cool magic item that was themed to look like a broom with smoldering embers on top. And the main flavor of the item was that depending on how the wearer felt, the user felt, the flame would react. If you were feeling really brave and confident, the flame would spark with you. And if you were feeling really quiet and depressed, it would smolder like embers. The item itself had some really cool effects, If you were within, I think 15 feet of it, all allies within 15 feet of the user had advantage on saving throws against being frightened. But the main effect that was really cool was that once a day, or no, you had 3 charges. That's right. You had 3 charges, and every time you use a charge, you can target one character that is about to be dealt fire damage and heal them for half the damage they would have taken instead of dealing them damage. So in that sense, say your fighter's in the middle of 8 demons getting the proverbial stuffing kicked out of them. You can then go fireball, but I'm going to use a charge. So instead of dealing 8d6 fire damage to my fighter, I'm going to heal him for 4d6 instead. That way everyone gets blown up and you heal your guy. It sounds really powerful, but it has so few charges that, you can't really use it too often.
Yeah.
But it's also just a really good, get out of jail free card kind of item.
Oh, cleric's down? Well, I've got this fireball, but I really want to chuck it at them. But the fighter who's low on HP might die. Oh, no, it's fine. I'll just heal him, actually.
Exactly, Also, it gains 1d3 charges at dawn. But if you finish a long rest or wake up at dawn near a hearth or a campfire, you gain 1 plus 1d3 charges instead.
Because goddess of the hearth.
Exactly. That's one of the items. I have another one I'm really proud of. I don't want to take too much time, and who knows? Maybe we'll save it to reveal in another candy corner.
Yeah.
What about you, Crackle? What's one of your favorite items you've made?
So I think this one is one I'm really proud of because it was one of my first magical items I had made, and it kind of has the lore that I enjoy injecting into a simple little item. So it's called the Pipe of the Seasoned Gladiator. And what it was a little smoking pipe that once a day you can use it to basically fill up to 3 creatures of your choice within a range of 60 feet with some battle insight, the ability to perform tasks better, giving them basically a 1d4 to add to attack rolls and wisdom checks. This would last for a minute, and once the 1d4 is expended, it can't be used again, blah, 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 right? But what I particularly loved is the kind of the mini backstory I gave to it. And that is, this golden pipe was used by the owner of the gladiatorial Alturian Avengers at the Argus Colonia in Alturia, a team that participated primarily in 3v3 matches. The owner would smoke the pipe and activate its enchanted property at key points in battles, empowering his gladiators who would often come back from impossible setbacks and narrowly claim victory, making them a favorite of the Colosseum. However, toward the end of their career, the manager was found to have been magically interfering with the bouts, and the team was soon disbanded. And so it was kind of a cool little thing of hey, some guy used to run some gladiators, and he would smoke this pipe. And normally, most people would just be like, oh, yeah, he's just smoking a pipe. What's the deal? When in reality, he's like, oh, no, I'm giving my guys an edge right now. Right? Kind of like that little tell that is going to show that his team is going to get better. And so just the thought of that, that lore, that little story, and the fact that it has a bit of history to it, I just really enjoy with my magical items. And yeah, like I said, it was one of the first ones I made that I was really proud of.
Yeah, it's a really dope one too. Flavor is important, man. Flavor is important.
So that sounds like our magic items. We answered that question. Thank you again, Calkern.
You are welcome, Calkern. And yeah, I think that's it for this Candy Corner. I think that's it for this session of Chocolate Covered Gaming. You can find us on our YouTube channel at Chocolate Covered Gaming. Except that you can't. But If you try really hard, we believe in you.
If you try really hard, just type in Chocolate Covered Gaming in one of our episode names, and you should find it.
You know, our famous episodes like Not Your Grandfather's Rodan, or
And The
Voice
Edge.
the Edge,
Or that Weeb one.
or The Big Stormbrowski. That will help.
It will help a lot. Now that
yeah.
we have a repertoire.
You know, this is... Yeah, we got a lot now.
Yeah.
Boy, we are currently on 12. Wow, look at us.
Episode 12. And you know, they say if you get past episode 5 of a podcast, you're going to be going places.
Ha. Yeah.
Nah.
And you can also find us on our SoundCloud, the details of which are...
Yes, our SoundCloud, of course, is as always found at soundcloud.com/2019_6097, which if you don't want to look for our YouTube in the, huge YouTube bin and repository that is YouTube, you will find a link to our YouTube channel from there.
Well, I think that's it. We covered a lot of cool things today, immersion, suspended disbelief, cool magic items. And honestly, at the end of the day, there's only one thing we can really say. And you know what that is, Chris?
What?
We're sorry.
We're very sorry. Especially to you, Craig. We're very, very sorry for you.
Yeah, you have to deal with all my shenanigans. And we appreciate it.
Thank you!
Well, thank you for joining us. And bye.